She's helped hundreds and hundreds of artists get into business and build sustainable businesses. She is the publisher of Niche magazine. She also started American Style magazine and is the founder of the Arts Business Institute. So I'd like to introduce to you Wendy Rosen.
Thank you. How many of you believe that artists are some of the most lowest paid people on the face of the earth? Guess what? You could be wrong. Statistics show every year that the income of artists are going up and up and up, and that you are now really a force in the economy. You are a bigger, the creative economy is a larger economic development sector than tourism. Can you believe that? Than agriculture. And Congress and Americans for the Arts and all of the country is now looking to creative people to solve all the problems that those left-brain people made for all of us a few years ago. So I want to tell you a little bit about how our job here is not to tell you how to balance your checkbook. It is not here, we're not here to tell you how to do all the things that a local person in town can help you with. We want to bring to you ideas that will help you sell your work at higher prices and help you develop work that'll sell throughout the country. How many of you think your work will sell at its best price right here in Buffalo? Very good. Okay. Guess what? The further away you are from home, just like when you're a consultant, the more valuable you are. So selling your work outside of Buffalo is not a bad idea. However, in the last 15 years, we have seen an explosion of the shop local, eat local economy. And so now you are becoming even more and more precious here in Buffalo. So never, never abandon your Buffalo roots and make sure that you are leveraging that and promoting that and including that in your story. The idea here is to raise the value of your work. I was just talking to Marcia, and she's selling sun catchers made by disabled artists. And she says we're undercutting, we're underpricing ourselves against the artists that are local. And I said, you don't have to do that because your story is so valuable that people will buy as much for your story, and they will put money behind your story as much as they'll put money behind your pieces. So let's get to figuring out how we're going to do what we want to do. The biggest problem that artists have very often is that they just are too unfocused. I want you to go home today, and I want you to find the one great design that you have done. The one thing that you're the most proud of, the one thing that everybody says, that's the best one. And I want you to take that one idea and it becomes the roots of the tree that you're going to build. The tree of your body of work. And instead of creating something new tomorrow, I want you to create one branch off of your new tree. I want them to be related, like cousins, or like sisters and brothers, or mother and children. Your pieces need to have a visual relationship. We need to be able to tell that that one was made by you, and this one was made by you. Okay? So make sure that the changes that you make as you progress are not revolution, but instead they are evolution. There are many sources of inspiration. If you need trend inspiration or you need to know what's going on in the marketplace, museum shows are a great way to get inspiration on how to build your work, in your color palette, in content for your work, if you're doing collage work or whatever, media, history, culture, humor, quotes. Do you know how wonderful a quote is to a piece of artwork? What does a quote do? Words attached to your artwork, whether it is on a plaque that only has words on it, or whether it's underneath imagery, or whether it's attached through a hang tag, those words double your audience size immediately. Because right-brain people, creative people like yourself, fall in love with the image or the design. Left-brain people, often a spouse who has to agree to that purchase, or might need to agree to that purchase, that person falls in love with the idea, the concept, the process, the story you are telling. So words are so important to your work. They add value like you wouldn't believe, but they broaden your audience by doubling it. It's a very important part of your work. Look for narrow interest sectors. Believe it or not, there are more artists right now working in the Halloween industry sector than you would ever imagine. They are figure makers, they are mask makers, they are headdress makers or costume makers. They are all kinds of people who are working in this brand new industry because 20 years ago, the haunted house that was a fundraiser locally was done by a little committee of people and they made all that stuff themselves. Today, there are huge, huge conventions where these people who work for nonprofit organizations or even for-profit companies that create community haunted houses, they go to a convention and they buy that stuff. And it's pretty pricey stuff. Sometimes it's electronic and it's animatronic like at Disney World. There are hundreds and hundreds and hundreds of booths and thousands of artists working on products just for Halloween. Halloween has become the second most popular and most spendy holiday of the entire year, beyond Mother's Day, believe it or not, or Valentine's Day. Design and detail. I feel that you really need to have an understanding of what your specific customers need to feel from your work. If you are Salvador Dali, a little shock is not a bad thing. That's what people learn to expect from Dali. Figure out who you are and always be that. You're going to build collections, and you're going to build collections because retail stores, galleries, and shops and customers have different reasons for each day of the week that they're going to be spending on your product. A woman comes in and buys a beautiful, huge vase that costs $400, and the next week, she needs a wedding present for her niece. She's not going to spend that $400. Again, you need to be able to provide her with that item. And what price is an item of a wedding present? $100 to $200, right. It's gotten to be actually a little bit lower these days, post-recession or during recession. But yes, $100 to $200. Because why is it $100 to $200? Because you can't buy the catering bill for 2 people for less than that. So you need to have something in that wedding price point, which means half of that, so it's $75 to $100, $50 to $75, $100 in the wholesale range for that wedding gift. You need to be able to have price points that are for birthday gifts and Christmas gifts. Those are $50, $60, $70 range items. And then there's always the impulse thing. Can you provide retailers with something that is an impulse item, something that's going to sell for under $40, under $30, that someone can come and pick up without thinking twice, they can buy that. And then of course you always want your one-of-a-kind items. So make sure that if you are building a business and you want to be really successful at building the business, that you hit those sweet price points that you have to hit in order to be successful. Everybody know this guy? This is the greatest marketer on the face of the earth. He, you know, we think Picasso was good. We think Salvador Dali was good. This guy has them all beat. And I'm going to explain to you why. He started with one great idea. And his one great idea, after he went through his basket period and his using Pepsi bottles to make glass with, you know, with Harvey Littleton and everybody in Toledo, once he got it going, man, this is what he created, the macchia. And the macchia started out small, and they grew, and they grew, and they grew, and soon only museums and very, very wealthy people could afford a macchia this big, because how much were they? $65,000. Then he noticed that all those people that bought the $65,000 ones and the ones that are in the museums, they were getting old. His collectors were getting old. He had a whole generation that was retiring, moving into nursing homes, and guess what? The kids didn't want the macchias. So he had to prepare himself for moving to the next step. So he started taking his work and putting it into architectural installations. Once he started selling to very, very famous, wealthy art collectors, a lot of those people own buildings. They own hotels, like Steve Wynn. And this is the Bellagio. And he installed the Bellagio ceiling and got lots of press for it. At the same time, he's doing all these PBS documentaries. Remember those? In fact, his work was the first film that showed nationally on television that was HD. He went into museums, and when he went into museums, his work was absolutely beautiful. It was absolutely beautifully lit, and museums wanted it all over the country. And he would tour the museum exhibitions everywhere. But you know, there's a problem with museums. You know what the problem with museums are? They have walls. He didn't want walls. He wanted to be able to make his work go beyond the walls of a museum. And he had already run out of museums in this country and in many other countries. So he started going to gardens. This is the Chicago Botanical Garden, by the way. I don't know how many of you went to see this exhibition. But, so he went to conservatories, and he started placing his work in conservatories. He also did the Tower of David in Israel, and many of his installations were more for publicity and for raising the value and raising awareness of the Chihuly brand than they were for anything else. How do you extend your brand? Chihuly hasn't blown a piece since he was in his 20s. He has a team of people who work for him because he only has one eye, and blowing glass really requires you to have good peripheral vision on the way around. So he extended his brand with posters, books, videos, and note cards. But he was missing something. What demographic is Dale Chihuly missing? Any idea? Oh, come on, you have to know. Huh? Children. There you go. Dale Chihuly has something for kids. The Chihuly Art Kit sells in every museum shop in the United States. It is never out of stock. It is in every art school. I think it's also available in Michael's and Joann's. I can't be sure. But it's sold everywhere. Toy shops, everywhere you can imagine. So Chihuly now has collectors beginning at the age of 3. In fact, one day, I got a phone call from a gallery owner who couldn't stop laughing and couldn't even tell me who she was. Finally, after about 4 minutes of her gagging and laughing, she finally was able to talk to me, and she said, "Wendy, you won't believe this. This is Joanne calling from New Smyrna Beach. Damn it, A kid came in, a 4-year-old came in with his mommy, looked up at my art glass wall and said, "Mommy, is Santa too holy?" She said, "Now, damn it, that's a band. That's a brand." Know your trends. There are certain trends that will help you leverage your values, help you leverage your sales, help you identify new markets. Get into it. Localism is one. In fact, I was right in town here 2 years ago for the BALI conference, the Business Alliance for Local Living Economies. They're all of the shop local groups around the country. And they are exploding everywhere. Spiritualism. People aren't specifically religious and identify with one specific religion anymore, but everyone is spiritual. Everyone is emotional. Everyone wants to connect with other people. Culturalism. Everyone is not only celebrating their own culture, they're celebrating everyone's culture. Individualism. That was something that I grew up with in the 60s, but everyone still does want to be different. And we are all about a community of people who dare to be a little different, don't you think? Eco, recycle, and upcycle, and made in America. I have spent the last 25 years beating down the doors of Congress trying to protect Made in America. Because of those little Made in China stickers that get removed off of products all over the place, and then you think you might be buying something made in America. Well, the Smithsonian Museum shops and the National Park stores have all told me we don't have to buy Made in America. And I have been able to find some wonderful senators like Bernie Sanders, Gillibrand, Steve Israel, people like that who have helped me intimidate them into doing so. So we now have all of them at the shows to buy at the American Made Show. Make sure you have your own style. We talked about a visual signature. What makes a Liechtenstein a Liechtenstein? Come on, give me some answers. Dots. Cartooning.
Bright colors.
What?
Bright colors.
Bright colors, yeah, primary colors. When you see one Liechtenstein, you know the next Liechtenstein when you see it, don't you? Now we're going to talk a little bit about pricing. At every art fair in the country, there are people who are going from booth to booth trying to buy something at a discount. How many of you experienced that? Well, looky there, some. Yeah. There are, I would say, 25 to 30,000 art fairs in this country that might even call themselves jury. Some of them are good, some of them are bad. Some of them are good one year, and the next year they get rained out. You never know how you're going to do at a retail fair, but you know one thing. It is unlikely at an outdoor retail fair that you are going to get the best price for your work. Pricing. There are two ways to price your work. Only two. And you're going to come up with something in between them. The first way to price your work is what the market will bear. You go into the best stores and the best galleries throughout the country, and you look on the best, incredible websites where people who you admire are selling their work, and you find out what the price points are. You find out how you compare. How do you stack up? What will the market bear in Buffalo? What will the market bear compared to Fifth Avenue in New York? I think it's a little different, right?
Yes.
So you figure out what the market will bear, and then you make a comparison. Yes?
I was told that if you price point your work in one area, that you need to keep it consistent across the
Yes,
board.
you do.
Even if it's in another state or another.
Yes, you
Because
do.
otherwise, if you're set.
But you can choose where to sell your work so that you don't sell in environments where you're not going to do well. So if you've been pricing your work down to the local market, you don't do that. If you want to do a local show, it's fine. You do it at the higher price for Fifth Avenue. Or not quite Fifth Avenue, I'll tell you why.
Fifth Avenue that you're selling stuff at here at a lower cost. Or
You
the
can't bring your
customers.
price down for your local market. That's all I'm telling you. Okay, and we'll go through that a little bit more. We have tried to pack 2 days worth of stuff in. Todd kept encouraging us to condense and condense and condense. So we've tried our best, and he's got us as tight as we can. So there are some things that you're gonna have to bring us back for 2 days to get it all, okay? Because we're a little tight. When you look at these shops, where do you get the best price?
Niche,
Come on.
niche sectors.
Niche sectors, that's right. That's where you get your best price. At boutiques, you get a fair price. You can get a really nice price at a good boutique. Museum shops, you know what a museum shop buyer is likely to tell you? Our best customer is this tall and comes every day on a yellow bus with a $10 bill in his hand. Or maybe even a $5 bill in his hand. So,
I have a question.
yes,
What, that's very true. I'm thinking about the Birchfield penny. But is it worthwhile, thinking it's worthwhile to say, I work in the shop in the Birchfield penny, even if they're not paying money?
that you work what?
That I have work in the Birchfield penny shop, gift shop, even if they're not paying a lot of money. It's worth it to say.
Oh,
I work-
absolutely, absolutely. And you can sell in museum shops. If you sell in art museum stores or local museums and you're touting the fact that you're local, then you can do that. There are certain museum shops that are up here in price and there are certain museum shops that are down here. The little railroad museum in Pennsylvania, not going to be a high price place. You know, it just depends on where you're selling. Niche sectors. I want to talk a minute about 2 opportunities that ceramic artists have. Anybody here a ceramic artist? Oh, good. This one will pay for the kids to go to private school, okay? Okay, these 2 ideas. One is, if you have a lidded vase that's about this big and you're selling it at a local art fair, what are you going to sell it for?
There would just be so many different factors. I don't know.
30, 35?
At,
Under 40?
at probably about right. Yeah.
Okay, all right. If it holds Fluffy's ashes, what is it worth?
75, no.
At least twice that. Sometimes 3 and 4 times. There is a website called funaria.com. Funaria.com, F-U-N-E-R-I-A, funaria.com. And they're at your local funeral home, and your local veterinarians would love to have a small catalog of your work to sell. Oh, excuse me. Okay. There's another sector for ceramic artists, and I will tell you that I was at NCECA one time, and I gave this advice to an artist who came just to NCECA across the country from Seattle. He came to NCECA, I think it was in Columbus, Ohio, to ask me for a critique. And I looked at him and I said, oh, these glazes are so beautiful and your forms are so sensual. Oh my God, I love it, I love it, I love it. And he goes, so where should I sell it? Hoping that I would say, Sofa Chicago. I didn't. I said, Ikebana. And he said, huh? I said, you need to take a Japanese flower arranging class, and the little ladies that you meet there are going to feed you well, and they are going to pay you well enough to put your kids in private school, and you'll build a retirement fund that will be adequate, and you'll never have to worry a day in your life as a potter. And you don't have to do art fairs. All you have to do is pull up in your van and open the back, and they'll even unload your wood for you. He was very angry. He went home to his wife and he said, I can't believe it. I spent $1,500, $2,000 going to this conference. And the wife said, so what did she say? She said I should take a Japanese flower arranging course. And she said, you're going to take the doggone flower arranging course. 7 years later, he told me it all worked out well. Okay, formula number 2. I guess I got these out of whack here. Formula number 2 for pricing is this wonderful formula. Materials, labor. You know what materials are. Do you really know what labor is? Labor is what you would pay yourself if you had gone out and got another job. $25 an hour, $30 an hour, whatever you think you would earn in a 9-to-5 job, in a real job, as other people call it. Now, that price, you hope, of $30 an hour, when you get down to the point where it's packing and shipping and just wrapping, bubble wrap around stuff, and maybe that somebody's just adding a tassel or folding your hang tag cards and attaching them, that you can get at a lower price, right? You can hire somebody to do that for less. And that is the way you make more money. You will make some money off the back of people who work for you. And there will be days when you are doing the kind of highly technical, skilled work in art, in your production or your process, where you can pay yourself $200 an hour. Once you raise your prices and you get your brand going. We all know Dale Chihuly doesn't even make $200 an hour, he makes a lot more than that. Okay? So all of these items, materials, labor, overhead. Everybody know what overhead is? Those are all the stagnant prices that are all costs that are all the same each month. Your website hosting, your studio fee, right? Okay? And then you have profit. What is profit? Any idea? Come on. What's profit?
Yeah, everything above your bottom line.
Huh?
Above what you
Your
spent.
expenses, yeah.
Yeah, above your expenses.
Actually, what profit is not what's left over at the end of the month. And it's not what you put in your pocket. That is the money, which is about 30% of your wholesale price. That amount is what you will spend to help you build a cash flow cushion. Because you're buying supplies today, you may not sell something for 2 months or a month, maybe even 3 or 4 months, depending on how you're doing it. So you need profit for going to Penland once a year, learn some new tricks and skills. You need profit for new equipment. You need profit for cash flow, for supplies, for all kinds of things. And that's what profit does. It is the fuel that grows your business. You cannot work without it. One of the big crimes in our world is that every one of you as a professional artist has to compete against a few amateurs who do not understand pricing. That's a real problem. And I don't understand why, but so many people forget cost of sale. Cost of sale is this whole amount, materials, labor, overhead, profit equals wholesale, times 2, times, it's that much again. Because your wholesale price is half of your retail price. How many of you have ever said that I'm not paying a gallery half of my price to sell for me? That's crazy. It costs that much to sell your work. It costs that much to have business insurance, to have a storefront, the electricity, everything. It's expensive. And that's why on Rodeo Drive, things are so expensive. Because they're paying $1,500 a square foot. And on Fifth Avenue, they're paying $1,500 a square foot in order to sell to the most of the WIT customers. So your cost of sale is really important. And you know what you need to include in your cost of sale? When you go out to do an art fair, the day you spent packing up the time you spent at the art fair, the time you spent unpacking and driving home, all of that needs to be considered because you need to analyze and compare what you made at the art fair versus what you would have made if you'd stayed home in the studio. How much production would you have made? What did you lose by being out of the studio? You need to know that number. And that is a huge number. And that is what forces people to think twice about living off of retail fares versus wholesale. What wholesale will do for you is even out your income. You don't have to worry about winters anymore and snow. You don't have to worry about rainstorms like we had this afternoon. You don't have to worry about weather, temperatures, or anything. Your customers are coast to coast. They're in recession areas, they're in non-recession areas, they're in wealthy areas, they're in middle class areas. They're in all kinds of areas where in Florida their hot season is the winter, their best season is the winter. In Santa Fe their best season is in the summer. So you can have business that evens out all year round. Now when you finish this formula, you're going to find out that really your number is too big. You can't be competitive even with other artists that are highly skilled. So now you have to create efficiency. You're not going to make them one at a time. Whatever your widgets are, you have to make them in sets or groupings or lots so that you can be much more efficient. So figure out what your efficiency is and how that'll help you. Always use time studies. And then you're going to do something very, very special. After you have gotten yourself efficient, we're going to start adding value. How many people remember Cabbage Patch dolls? What were they without the adoption certificate? And the same thing with the American Girl doll. They all have certificates. So that adds value to them. The pet rock, it's all marketing. It's not about the rock at all. Figure ways to add value. Sometimes it's using unusual supplies or vintage elements or telling your story like we talked about with Marcia. Sometimes it's a certificate. Sometimes it's just something sparkling. You know, if you have a gold ring and you put a tiny, tiny little diamond in there that actually costs you nothing, all of a sudden the perceived value is higher. If you light something up, now you can use LED lighting and you can illuminate your work. Very often that will increase perceived value. Even if it's just a little add-on platform or plinth that you're adding with it, it adds value. Add function. Make sure your customers know exactly how they can use your work and make sure that there is function. And don't let anybody tell you that 2D art isn't functional. All art is functional because every piece of art has enough purpose that somebody, somewhere, will reach into their pocket and take out their wallet and pay for it. That's purpose. Nobody buys something that has absolutely no purpose in their lives. It might be something that makes them happy. It might be something that questions authority. It might be, you know, an emotional thing. It doesn't have to be a physical thing, but it has a purpose. It has a function. Know what the function of your work is. And if there's any flexibility with it, utilize that as well. Look for those opportunities in your own work. Skill development. One of the things we always find at these workshops is that there are people who come and they don't have the local resources for increasing their skill level to a higher level. That they're above hobby level, but they're not quite yet at a skill level that will really let their work, let them create work that'll stand out among a lot of other people's work. So, you might need to go to Penland, Haystack, Archie Bray, somewhere where you can get really, really great classes. workshop, a class, there's some great online classes now. So you might be able to get something online. Find an apprenticeship and look for new materials and elements to add to your work. So this is all about finding your niche. Make sure that whatever you're doing is what other people aren't. Make sure you're making what other people are not making. How many people on Etsy are stringing beads that they found or purchased at Michael's or Joann's? What percentage of the jewelry on Etsy is that? A big number. And sell your work where other people are not selling. If you would like to know where there are places to sell work, you can go to tradeshowcentral.com or just look up convention or trade show calendar and do it for Buffalo. You'll be surprised at how many conventions are coming to Buffalo and your work might fit in. I have friends that they only go to conventions that, there are people that sell $1,000 custom-made hats. $1,000 custom-made hats. Where do you think they can sell their work?
Kentucky Derby.
That's one. There's another. Baptist church conventions, right. Because a hat is not a hat. If you are a Baptist church lady, a hat is not a hat, it's a crown. It is your glory. And there is a huge competitive nature about those hats.
Yes, there is.
And you gotta have the best. So if you want to sell a hat for $1,000, nobody's ever answered that in the audience. So congratulations.
Oh, I know. Because I make up mats too.
Right. There are people that just go to, there's every kind of convention in the world. Yes.
This goes back to something we talked about earlier. What would be a fair market value to have digital representation of your artwork?
For what?
For a digital file of your artwork, to have something digitally photographed for flat artwork. So you can have a digital representation of it to send out, have good quality images of your stuff. What's the market value on something?
It depends on what the purpose is for the customer.
Yeah.
And if a customer is going to utilize that in a dishonest way, it could be quite a high value.
Well, I mean, just for have digital, so you can have digital prints of your artwork, so you can sell prints and stuff, so you're not selling originals.
Carolyn and I think both agree that it would be great if you didn't have to sell originals at all. Darn it, just sell the prints. I know that there are a lot of art fairs that will let you do that, but in my world, and in Carolyn's world, selling prints is the name of the game. You leverage as much as you can. Okay, are there any questions right now? Okay, I'm going to give you one last little tippy-poo here. Okay, this is my favorite marketing copy. The last group didn't get this. This is special for you, okay? This is the best copywriting I have ever read in my life. It's all about Angel Snot. In our busy world, it's easy to forget that miracles really do happen. With its lovely scent and its comforting texture, Angel Snot is a heavenly reminder of the magic at work in our everyday lives. We say, "Bless you," when someone sneezes, because medieval folk believed that a sneeze was the soul escaping the body. Clearly, there's a strong connection between nasal mucus and the miraculous power of heaven's messenger.
This is a gag, right?
That's a real product, sir. And I'm not finished. This beautiful jasmine-scented pearlescent substance is both sacred and fun to play with. Squish it, bounce it, stretch it, just don't wipe it on the back of the couch. You get 2 packages of Angel Snot, each with approximately 1 ounce of precious fluid in a plastic egg. That little product has been for sale for the last 20 years. You will find it in novelty shops and souvenir shops across the country. Next time you're on vacation, go looking for it. It sells for, I think, about $4.99. Whoever invented this is a genius. And if you can write about yourself like that, you can sell anything. And that's my presentation. Do you have any questions? No questions? I'll be here after the presentations are over if you want to talk. If anybody is interested in the American Made Show, I encourage you to go to the website and take a look. We would love to have a guild or a group from the Buffalo area. It would be fabulous. It's in Washington, D.C. in January. And thank you so much. And thank you, Todd, for inviting us. I love the fact that ASI just jumped on the wagon when they found out we were coming to the area and said, we want you here too. So thank you so much, ASI.
So we'll do one more quick break. We have one more
Carolyn's got one more
presentation. So quick bathroom break or dessert or...
And I can talk and answer questions. Yes?
Can you describe more about the American Made Show?
Yes. It is a wholesale trade show for artists in the fields of fashion, textiles, metals, jewelry, blown glass, ceramics, some. And it's for galleries and museum shops and institutional buyers. Wegmans comes and buys. Uncommon Goods buys. Drew Kelly, who's here, has a lot of buyers that come to our show. He sells through the Frank Lloyd Wright Group. Is Drew here? Anyway, it's a wholesale show.
Is it similar to wholesalepress.com?
It's a little different. We've been around for 33 years. And so I think, we have a larger group. And in a month, we're introducing an online portal like they have online. I think we have a higher price point, average price point than they do. Yeah. Any other questions? Yes?
Angel Snot sells for $235.
What? What did you just say?
Angel Snot sells for $235.
$235. The price is going down, gang. Yeah. Okay, word approval.
This is just a comment. So I just have a
Yes.
comment. I used to work for a photographer, and he would always put in bids, but his address and everything on the website was Buffalo-based, his phone number was Buffalo-based, and he wasn't getting the jobs that he wanted that, for the price that he had. So he changed his phone number to New York City phone number, he got a P.O. box that was New York City, then all of a sudden he started getting paid what he thought his value and his worth was.
Yep.
Because he was no longer a Buffalo photographer.
Yep.
He was a New York City photographer.
Yep.
And he was still living in Buffalo.
Yeah, it's like hiring a consultant, and then you meet the consultant, and they borrow your Rolex watch to tell you what time it is.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Quality was here.
Actually,
Quality.
website developments have a place where you can get a virtual address. You can buy virtual addresses. So like he was saying in New York City,
Right.
you can actually buy a virtual address so that if you don't want to put your own home address
Right.
on there or whatever.
Mhm.
Yeah, so people do that all the time.
Right. It's a great idea. Fabulous idea. Anybody else? Any other questions? Do we have any jewelers here? Any jewelers? Ah, good. We have one ceramic artist, metal sculptors, woodworkers. How many woodworkers? How many 2D? Mostly 2D. Okay. Great. Nice to meet you all.